The FOMO that you're experiencing is keeping you safe and protected. A lot of times when you feel like you're missing out on things, you don't realize that there's a reason. Welcome back at your favorite mental health specialist guidance, and that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Now, with that being said, because there's no right or wrong way to heal yourself, always and only take what resonates as well as leave the rest. So if it doesn't apply, then that means it's not aligned, which means it is not for you, so don't force it. As well as grab your pens, grab your paper, and be prepared to take notes. For today's video, we're going to go over and discuss the FOMO that you've been experiencing and what it actually means, as well as some recommendations, some reminders, some disclaimers, and just certain things that you should be aware of. So starting off with the introduction, you have to understand that when you are wanting to do certain things and you don't have the access to, it's simply because it's not in your favor. And I know that may be a harsh reality, but over here, as your favorite mental health specialist, we're not here to sugarcoat anything. So if you're not ready to be accountable, honest, and vulnerable, send and share this video to who it is. But if you are and you're returning, make sure you're liking, commenting, and engaging. You have to understand that what is for you is not going to miss you. A lot of times you feel like you're meant to do certain things or you want certain things and you're actually not prepared, you're actually not ready, or it's not going to work out how you want it to. And if you want to know how I know, I want you to let me know in the comment section in your notes and just think in general about the times where you said you wanted to do certain things and you were able to do them versus when you said you wanted to do certain things and it didn't happen, or you got it and it wasn't what you wanted. And I know personally from experience, but I'll let you, like I said, give me an example in the comment section or just in your notes. You have to realize that the things that are genuinely meant to be for your greatest and highest good doesn't have to be difficult, challenging, or even hard. Like, so many people have this misconception that things in life have to be hard and difficult. It's only hard and difficult if you want it to be hard and difficult, or if you come into an agreement. That's why it's really important, and that's gonna be part of the recommendations, to watch what you say. Like, you can't say the power of the tongue is real and then say negative things. Now, of course, in order for you to not even have negative thoughts or to speak negatively about yourself, you have to work on yourself. So the second disclaimer is knowing that as you are understanding who you are and what it is that you want, you have to ask yourself, if it was for you, what do you need to do to make sure you're prepared and aligned? So for example, if your goal, let's just say, is to heal yourself from your childhood trauma, you have to be asking yourself what you're doing and what have you been doing to make that a part of your current reality. So if you know you grew up around narcissistic people, what are you doing to separate yourself from narcissistic people? What have you been doing to create distance from narcissistic people? What lessons were you supposed to learn from certain family members or certain friends or people that you were once familiar with? Like, what was it that you were no longer supposed to continue to do? Because you have certain habits. We have certain choices that we make, whether we want to be honest about them or not. And until we're able to be intentional with our time and what we focus on, we will continue to want to experience things and do things that are not helping us. So if you know, and I am somebody who's gone through this, I've realized, like, when it comes to certain things that I've wanted for myself, I had to be real about what I was able to do and what I wasn't going to do. And a lot of times, too, just because you want something doesn't mean that you're always going to get it when you want it. This doesn't mean that it's not going to ever happen, but you have to realize, like, a lot of times, sometimes when we want certain things, there's so much more to it than what we're able to understand. And that's going to be the third recommendation. Just because things are not happening when you want them to doesn't mean that it won't. You have to realize that a lot of times when it comes to certain lifestyles, when it comes to certain realities, it requires a certain level of responsibility. So healing yourself from childhood trauma could take years, it could take days, it could take months. Like, it's not a one size fit all. And I say that in every video of all the videos that I have in my disclaimer. You have to be okay with knowing that you separating yourself from narcissistic family and things that are familiar may take a couple of months. It may take a couple of years. It may take 20 therapy sessions. It may take you going to church. It may take you seeing a psychiatrist. It may require you to physically move. Like, it may require you months and days, especially if you're currently living with certain people or you are working with people or you're in school. Like, you know your situation. So the fourth disclaimer is allowing yourself to just be present and allowing things to happen as they're supposed to. Like, once again, you wanting to no longer be around certain people, places, and things when that's all you knew, is gonna take time. You wanting, let's just say, to get in shape and be healthier and physically fit when you've been, let's just say, obese or overweight, or maybe you didn't have the resources to go to the gym or to eat better, is going to take time, because you have to understand, once again, the responsibilities. You're having to change the way you eat. You're going to have to start educating yourself on certain supplements, what foods help you with energy, what foods help you with gaining weight, what foods are going to help you to lose weight. Like, it's so much that goes into what we want. So lastly, it is okay to not experience things when you feel like you're meant to experience them. And the reason why is because you need to be able to have a certain level of appreciation. And it's not to say that you're not ungrateful or that you're not ready now, but a lot of times it's not until we either receive the things that we want, or time goes by, or that we don't get the things that we want, that we have a better understanding. So with that being said, you're gonna have to learn to be patient. And before I get into the recommendations, I'm just gonna give you an example. There have been 3 times within the past year up until this year, so like 2025 up until 2026, this is when I'm currently making this video, where I personally had intentions to travel and to do certain things. Within those 3 separate times, those 3 events of me wanting to go places and wanting to do certain things, 3 tragic situations happened at those exact places. And of course, when I had the desire and when I had the opportunity to do so, I was excited, I was happy, I was like, yes, I'm gonna do this, blah, 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 blah. Like I said, we have desires, we have goals, nothing wrong with them. But sometimes it's not always your turn or meant for you to experience in that moment, and there's a reason why. So before I get into the recommendations, my camera ended up getting cutting off because my wig was sliding off, my half wig was sliding off. I'm gonna give you the examples. The first time I was meant to go to a destination, to go to an opportunity that I had, I was not able to go. And of course, like, when you want certain things, when you're having FOMO, you feel like, oh my God, I'm missing out, blah, 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 blah. Not realizing that there's something bigger and something greater that a lot of times, like I say, you're not able to understand until it happens or until afterwards. So for me, where I was supposed to go, there ended up being a plane crash. So that was the first event. With the specific airlines and the specific flight, I believe, that I was meant to go on, or what I thought I was meant to go on. And I end up like seeing it on the news and on social media and like on TikTok that there was a plane crash. So of course, initially when I found out that I wasn't able to go, I was like, oh my gosh. But then once I realized that there was tragedy, I was just like, thank you, God, thank you, ancestors, thank you, universe, thank you, higher self, because I was being protected. And the same thing happened with the 2 other events. It ended up being tragedy. And a lot of times we don't see that. A lot of times you don't realize that you're being protected from certain people, places, and things until later, or even in that moment, and you have to be okay with that. So the first recommendation is allowing yourself to learn how to handle certain situations and just life in general, and learning how to control your reactions and your response when you don't get certain things, because it is okay and it's normal and it's common for you to be disappointed and upset. But if you continue to stay in that energy, you won't be able to understand, like I said, the reason why you were being protected, but most importantly, move forward and have room for new opportunities. So learning how to control your emotions when you don't get things that you want, so therefore you don't have like this sense of unappreciative and ungratefulness. And that's what I'm talking about. A lot of times, me having that attitude, even within myself, that could come off as ungrateful. So if I'm putting out the energy of ungrateful and unsatisfied, that's what you end up getting back in return, and we don't want that. So the second recommendation when you're dealing with FOMO is to, if you need to, ask yourself, if you're struggling with your emotions, maybe why you're not ready or why it didn't happen to you. Like, if you're intuitive, you will get the answer. Like, a lot of times the reason why certain things don't happen when you want them to is because, one, like I said, it could be bigger than you and it just may not be your turn. Or simply two, maybe because you know you're not doing what you need to do. Maybe you're not genuinely prepared. Like, for example, if you have a goal to go to a concert, but you know that you haven't taken off from work, or if you need a babysitter, you haven't found somebody to watch your kids or watch your pet, or you know you haven't bought the ticket, why would you feel like you were going to go? Why do you feel like you should go? Like, sometimes it's us. Sometimes we're not doing what we need to do in order to experience the things that we want. So the third recommendation is knowing that it's common for you to want to do certain things, but it doesn't have to be permanent. Like, you don't have to be frustrated, you don't have to be bitter, and you don't even have to be jealous. Like, that's going back to the first recommendation, is learning how to deal with your emotions and how you react and respond to certain things. But just knowing that, inshallah, for those of you who don't know what that means, if it's for you, then it will be for you. Like, if it's in God's will, regardless if you're atheist or your religion or your spirituality, take what resonates, leave the rest, because I'm not here to force religion and spirituality. If you are meant to receive it, you will. Because once again, think about all the times, and that's going to be part of the fourth recommendation. Think about all the times you did once for certain things, and you asked for certain things, and you worked towards certain things, and you got it. You need to start paying attention to the patterns and recognizing what you were doing, what you were saying, the actions, the behaviors, the mindsets, the energy, and the vibrations, compared to the mindsets and the behaviors and the patterns that you had to things that weren't working. Because a lot of times, once again, it is based off of our mindset and if it's just for us. So the fourth recommendation is realizing that sometimes not everything is going to be for you. You have to make peace with the fact that everything and everyone's not for you. And just because you want certain things doesn't make you a bad person for wanting certain things. But once you're able to realize like what it is that you genuinely want, which is going to be the fifth recommendation, you won't feel so salty or easily disappointed or even discouraged. So lastly, figuring out what's genuinely for you. Is it genuinely going to help you, or is it going to be something that takes away from you? Because a lot of times too, when we say we want certain things, it may not always be for your greatest good. Like, you may think, oh, like, me doing this is going to be for my greatest good. This doesn't mean that when I wanted to have those experiences with the examples that I gave, that it wasn't going to help me become my greatest good or help me be the best person for myself. It just wasn't the time for me to experience it. It just wasn't the time for me to do it. Because once again, I wouldn't have probably lived or survived based off of, like I said, the tragedy that ended up happening at those airports and those destinations and just those events. Like, and I personally know, like, I'm grateful that I didn't go and I wasn't allowed to do the things that I wanted to do when I wanted to, because once again, like, I wouldn't have probably survived or been able to come on here and let you know, like, sometimes we're being protected. Like, in another example that I had, I remember one time I was meant to meet up with an individual, and I remember, like, there was, like, traffic, and I remember I had, like, a specific time that I was supposed to meet them, and I was just, like, at the time, I was just, like, overwhelmed a little bit, and I was just like, oh my god, like, I'm supposed to meet this person, I'm running late, and come to find out, literally right before, like, the exit that I needed to get off to get to this person, there was an accident. And, like, the entire time, like, there was traffic all the way where I was up until the exit, up until, like I said, where I needed my destination. And I was trying to figure out, why is there traffic? Why is it, like, a delay? A huge accident. Like, a huge car crash. And I'm just like, A lot of times we be trying to rush ourselves, and it's like, slow down. You don't realize what you're being protected and what you're being saved from. So whatever questions, comments, concerns, let me know. Let me know some recommendations and some tips that you do when you're dealing with FOMO, how you experience FOMO, as well as, like I said, what you've been doing to learn to understand like what's for you and what's not, as well as follow me on all my social media platforms. All the information is down in the description box below. And if you're interested in the service in the session, click the link in the description down below. And if you want me to talk about this, drop the word live, and on my Instagram and on TikTok, I'll go over and discuss this. But you're not alone. I love you. Your love. Until next time, thanks for watching. Peace.